So that's the advice you would give to teenagers and also to parents, right? To be aware. Like, what signs would you advise parents to look for?
Well, I wrote something out because actually you asked me before the interview if I had anything to share with parents, and you know, I'm no expert. I'm just a prison inmate. But from my heart, I just, you know, got my pen and paper and wrote some things down and then typed it up, and you know, maybe this will be helpful to somebody. If I could just read through it real quickly. It's this. Just wrote down these things from my heart. Do not underestimate the ability of peers to lure your kids into bad behavior. Friends have a lot of influence upon each other. Even the media makes certain negative behaviors seem okay, fun, and adventurous, while never showing the real consequences of such actions. Also, a seemingly happy and well-adjusted teenager is not immune from making bad choices. And then I went on to say, parents need to listen to their children and be alert to read a child's body language. Just don't take a child's word for it that everything is fine. Kids are good at hiding the truth from their parents, and parents do need to intervene, you know, if there is some kind of problem in the kid's life. And watch and listen for that silent cry. Most adolescents will not open up and confide in their parents or with their teachers, guidance counselors, or spiritual advisors. Instead, they will keep their deepest fears or concerns to themselves. So parents have to be good at reading between the lines, and always remember that, like adults whom they model after, teenagers have learned to hide behind a smile. But a smile could be nothing more than a mask to hide pain and problems. So be very discerning, be sensible, and don't panic when problems are revealed. And also, there's no problem that doesn't have a solution. Be patient and work things out. Pray and seek God's help. And I think that's just some of the things I thought of at the top of my head. You know, that silent cry where, you know, kids just don't share really what's going on. And sometimes the parents are so busy in this hectic world they're living in, you know, everybody's running in and out of the house. You know, the relationship is not always what it should be. So there's that thing, I coined this term, the silent cry, where, you know, behind the smile and everything, you've got to really discern what's going on in your kid's life, you know. And on a personal note, I think, you know, and this may sound kind of corny, but parents and their children need to tell one another that they love each other. You know, I remember growing up, I know my parents loved me very, very much. I had wonderful parents. But I never told them that I loved them, because I guess I figured that they knew that. They just took it for granted that I did. And you know, they never said that they loved me, because I guess they figured that I just knew that. But you'd be surprised how much communication is really missing. And the reason that strikes me personally is because my mom had died of cancer in 1967. And she passed away. I was 14 years old at the time. And it was very devastating. It messed me up emotionally. It affected me for years to come. I was angry at God. I was angry at society. I began to do many self-destructive things in life. You know, after years later, after she passed away, I happened to meet in the Parkchester section of the Bronx. I was going down Metropolitan Avenue for one reason or another. I happened to have met one of her old friends, a woman named Jean. My mom and her used to play mahjong together. They used to be at each other's houses all the time. So we met, and I had just gotten out of the Army. And Jean and her husband invited me for supper one day. So I took them up on it. I went to have supper with them in Parkchester. And you know, we were talking about the old times. And of course, she loved my mom. And she said to me, you know, your mom said before she died that she didn't know if you ever loved her. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, Jean, I was visiting her in the hospital. She said, Jean, I don't know if my son really loves me. And And then, of course, my mom passed away. Now, I didn't even know that had happened. And that always struck a chord in me, and I never forgot that. Even though I went downhill and took many bad turns and ended up in prison and things like that, that years later now, I could look back and say, wow, how important that is. We take it for granted that, people that we're close to, they know, or whatever, they just know certain things. They may not, and I don't even know why I'm sharing that, but I think that at a basic level, sometimes we're just so busy with our lives and we just assume certain things, but we really parents need to really hug their kids and spend time with them, and kids need to really appreciate their parents. I know that just sounds easier said than done.
But your father's turning 99.
Yeah, my dad's 99, and I love him very much. And by the way, we're always expressing our love to one another. I'm always telling him how much I love him, and even all these years later, every time we both talk on the phone, we start crying. It's without fail, And I just took a lot of things for granted as a child. My life was running so fast, and I regret keeping things bottled up inside my own heart and mind when I had family right there who would have listened to me, and I had my suicidal thoughts, my depressions, and all the things I struggled with in adolescence and later on in adulthood. And I'm thinking, man, why did I hold this all in, And then I ended up just going down a bad course, and it was all avoidable. I could look back now and say the whole tragedy that unfolded with the Son of Sam crimes and all that, the havoc that it wrought, that was all avoidable. And I have no one to blame but myself. And I thank God for His forgiveness. I find comfort and solace reading the Bible, the Old and New Testaments, praying, and seeking my peace with God, and just showing kindness to my fellow man, And
when we talk about forgiveness, you felt very relieved when Stacy Moskowitz's mother called you up and forgave you?
Well, I called her. That's another long story. Years later, I always wanted to reach out to the families that lost a loved one through my actions, or those that I hurt, and personally apologize. I've always personally, apologized time and time again, publicly, but never like one-on-one or anything like that. That was my heart's desire, that something like that would happen. And over a period of time, some friends of mine from Georgia managed to become friends with this woman, Mrs. Moskowitz, who lost her daughter Stacy in the last of that spree of crimes. And Mrs. Moskowitz was a very angry and bitter woman who had a lot of personal tragedy in her life. But she became friends with my friends, and over time she allowed me to write to her, which I did. I poured out my heart on paper, and that's, again, a long story in itself. It came to a point where she forgave me, and we were able to speak on the telephone. At that time, she was originally living in Brooklyn, but by this time she had moved to Florida. Her husband had since passed away, and she had one daughter left. There was another daughter who died many years before, in the early 70s. Well, anyway, I did speak to her on the phone on a number of occasions. We were even going to get together for a visit, but it never worked out. But she has since passed away. Mrs. Moskowitz since passed away from cancer, but there was a lot of healing in that relationship. It was really a miracle. I wrote extensively about it in my journal, and a lot of people have been encouraged by that.
You felt lifted when she forgave you?
Yeah, that was like a dream come true. I remember being out in the yard on a cold December day, I believe it was, and called her number. She had given me the number to call, and we spoke in, about 20 minutes, and it was very beautiful. A lot of healing happened, and over time we exchanged letters. All those letters that I received from her, they're in safekeeping now outside the facility, because I'll always treasure those letters.